Hello everybody, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, as usual, we're going to be playing some hytale and reading some pretty outrageous Reddit stories as well. And I'll be giving my opinion on the situations and inviting you guys to do the same in the comments. Now today in hytale, I'm really excited for this episode. So I'm planning to build a farm and a garden near the house. I'm hoping it's going to be some pretty relaxing gameplay both for me and for you. Pretty tired after a long week. I think the game design in hytale is absolutely beautiful as well, so I think it's going to be really good fun collecting all the plants and the flowers and the animals, and hopefully we'll create a productive and a beautiful space for the world. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The Reddit stories that I've prepared for today are pretty outrageous too, so strap yourselves in and let's get straight into the video. So, for our first story, I'm a single father, 38 male, with a daughter, 17 female. I discovered she has a large amount of cash and I'm suspicious. Okay, let's see where this goes. I'm a concerned father of a 17-year-old daughter seeking advice. For background, my wife passed away when my daughter was very young and I was still in college. With the help of my parents, I managed to graduate school and raise her. I've dated a few times since the death of my wife, but haven't been able to maintain a serious relationship. My relationship with my daughter has always been very good. She shares my love of the outdoors, so we go hiking, kayaking, camping together. But in the last year or so, she's seemed to become interested in other activities and hasn't spent much time with me. I'm okay with that given that she's growing up and coming into her own. Financially, we're secure. I've been fortunate enough to make a nice living in a career I enjoy, and the hours are pretty manageable. Despite that, I've tried not to spoil my daughter and make sure she understands the importance of work. In exchange for an allowance and gas money, she has to complete chores around the house, as well as help our elderly neighbour with things like taking out the trash and bringing her groceries. She's an A-star student, participates in school activities, and was a Girl Scout until she's 14. Honestly, I've always been really proud of her. She was out with friends on Saturday to watch a movie, and I had a contractor come over to replace a couple of windows in the house while she was out. I've always respected her space, and she had known about this beforehand. I ended up having to move around some of the furniture in her room to give the contractor access, and discovered a small box behind her chest of drawers. Curiosity got the best of me, and I opened it after the contractor was done. There was around $3,000 in cash inside the box. That's way too much money for her to have. After the discovery, I snooped around her room a bit more and found some expensive brand name clothing in her closet that I had never seen her wearing. Some were a bit mature for my taste, but that's a discussion for another day. Since then, I've double-checked my account to see if she'd secretly taken any money out from me, but no. And I never carry cash on me, so she couldn't have stolen it from me that way either. I don't think she's selling drugs because I've never found a stash in her room. And she's not dating anybody as far as I know, so it couldn't be a boyfriend's money either. I haven't discussed the discovery with her yet, but I intend to do so tonight. Any advice on how to broach this subject with her? $3,000 is a lot of money for her age, and I imagine she's spent more, so we could be talking about $5,000-6,000 here. I don't want to be confrontational and want a way to bring up the subject so she feels safe enough to be honest. I'm really worried and keep hoping she isn't caught up in something illegal that could jeopardize her future. This is a difficult one. Now, I think in this situation, obviously you just have to broach the topic, but I think it's really difficult and really sort of important that the writer of the story makes it clear that he came across it by accident, and that he didn't mean to, overstep and search around his room, and kind of he respected her privacy because obviously she's 17 and that's an important boundary. He wants this moment to sort of cause his daughter to trust him more and open up with him more rather than going the opposite way and causing her to shut down on him. But at the same time, he's absolutely right. He needs to find out where this money is coming from and make sure that she's safe and she's not getting herself in trouble or not, doing something that could potentially come around to harm her in the future. Let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think, first of all? Pause the video now and tell me in the comments where you think she gets the money from. And what would you do if you were in the father's situation? Now, for the second part, I'm going to read you the edit where he's come back and given an update. So Make sure you've written in the comments before, so no cheating. Okay. So he gives an update later on and says, I had a long talk with my daughter. I sat her down and described the circumstances of the discovery and explained I was worried because it's a large sum of money. Well, it turns out that the elderly neighbour has been giving her cash for the better part of a year now. The neighbour wanted to help with her college expenses and told my daughter to keep a secret from me because I've always refused to accept any money from the neighbour. My daughter also told me that part of the money is her own and that she'd been saving up for a birthday present to surprise me and didn't want to put it in her bank account because she'd have to ask me and it wouldn't be a surprise anymore. I was quite convinced by this, but I still had the expensive clothing in the back of my mind. So later in the conversation, I brought this up. My daughter said these were throwaways from her friend's mother. Her friend is very tall and couldn't wear them and gave them to my daughter instead. And they needed some slight alterations, so she hadn't worn them yet. I apologised for snooping and explained that I was just concerned for her well-being as a father, and assured her that we are financially stable and that I've put money aside for her college expenses. I also told her to keep an eye out for the neighbour and make sure that her welfare is not affected by the money she's giving my daughter, and I asked her to write a thank you card for her friend's mum and the neighbour, and to get a present for both at Christmas this year. After these revelations, I wanted to reward her for her savings habit, so I offered to start her a checking account and we looked into online options. We've opened an account and she'll have the use of a debit card and an online financial planning guide. My daughter seemed to reflect well on our talk and took the opportunity to reveal that she's been in a relationship for a couple of months. I think this is interesting. Obviously, the story might be true, but to me, maybe it seems a little bit convenient. The friend's mum story and things like that and the neighbour. What do you think? I really hope it is true, and obviously the relationship detail is nice. It shows that the writer has gone about it in a good way and it's hopefully strengthened the relationship that he has with his daughter. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. An interesting one. Let's go on to our next story. So for this one, am I the asshole for ignoring my mother-in-law's calls after she told people I asked her for money and twisted our private conversation? Interesting. I have a complicated relationship with my mother-in-law. From the beginning, she didn't like me when I joined the family and told my brother-in-law that I was only with my husband because he's successful and rich, that I don't genuinely love him, and that our marriage won't last. About a year later, she suddenly changed her tone and started saying that I'm a good daughter-in-law and like the daughter she finally has. But she still makes negative comments about me behind my back, even though she doesn't say anything directly to me. For some background, my in-laws are separated but not divorced, and my mother-in-law lives alone. My husband, brother-in-law and I live with my father-in-law. For a while, I thought that my mother-in-law and I were getting closer. We hung out a few times and I opened up to her about small frustrations regarding the rest of the family, the men. She seemed supportive and gave me advice. Later on, I found out that she repeated those private conversations to my husband, brother-in-law and father-in-law, and questioned why I said those things. She also tends to retell stories in a very twisted way. Even my husband doesn't fully trust her versions of events because they're often inaccurate. After that, I kept some distance but stayed polite. Recently something happened that hurt me more. During a video call with her, I mentioned being worried about my father's health and possible medical bills. I did not ask her for money or ask for help. She was the one who said, "It's okay, we'll help you." And I just replied, "Thank you, I appreciate your concern." Later on, she told my brother-in-law that I cried and asked her for money, and that I'm financially latching on to my husband, brother-in-law, her and the rest of the family, and that I need to become an independent woman. This really upset me because it's not true. I work in admin and support myself, and I've never asked her for financial help. After hearing this, I felt betrayed and decided to stop answering her calls and texts for a while. My husband has also reduced contact and keeps things with her very surface level. My mother-in-law is now telling people we're avoiding her because her niece poisoned us against her, which is not true. My husband, brother-in-law and I discussed everything and decided we'll address this face-to-face at a family meeting so that nothing gets twisted again. I'm not comfortable speaking to her alone right now because everything I say gets twisted. She recently messaged saying that she is deeply hurt that we're avoiding her and that she doesn't know what she did wrong. Am I the asshole for not responding to her and only wanting to discuss this in person with witnesses present? Or am I overreacting? I think this is a really interesting one. Obviously, like, we have limited context here, but it's really sad, right, that the writers come into this situation and her mother-in-law's kind of been against her from the get-go, right? She says at the start that her mother-in-law was suspicious of her and her intentions and didn't like her, didn't sort of approve of her from the start. And it's just a real shame that that then also turned into her sort of pretending to get along, them sort of thinking, or the writer thinking, that they'd kind of created a relationship and they were deepening a relationship, just for it to turn out that sort of that wasn't authentic, or the mother-in-law wasn't potentially well-intentioned and that she was going to go and twist things behind the back. Obviously, you know, again, we don't have all the context, but it seems to me, if I had to read into it, that the writer's mother-in-law is potentially jealous that the writer, her husband, and her brother-in-law, so the husband's brother, are all living with their father, or the writer's father-in-law, instead of with her. But again, it's absolutely no excuse for this behaviour, and I don't think the writer's overreacting, really. Like, money is a sensitive topic, and it's pretty horrible that her words are being twisted. So I don't think it's overreacting, but I do think it's important that you get to the bottom of it, because it's clearly a situation that's kind of breaking up the family, creating divides within the family, and upsetting people. So I really hope they're able to come to a conclusion. Let me know in the comments, what would you do in this situation? Would you shut out the mother-in-law completely, or would you speak to her and look for an apology and maybe give her another chance? Okay, our next story. Am I the asshole for cancelling a trip because my friends changed the plans to something that I couldn't afford? I think I ruined a group trip that was planned for months, and even though I feel terrible about it, there's nothing I could have done. Okay, this is an interesting one. Me and two friends of mine went on a group ski trip in January 2025, and it was so fun that by September we started planning another trip for 2026. But then we realised that the plans we had for the trip would require a group of 4, and since we were 3, one of us decided to bring another friend of hers, and we all accepted this. This was towards the end of November, and preparations were going very well. One day in December, the new girl suggested that we change our original destination to somewhere else, because our original destination wouldn't be ideal for the trip of 4. The friend that brought her in supported this, and the other one opposed with me, so it was 2 against 2, until they all spoke and it became 1 against 3, leaving me as the only one opposing the destination change. I made my case to them that I couldn't afford to spend nearly double of what my initial budget for the trip was, and that the new plan was going to extend into a new week, whereas the former one was for the weekend only. I suggested to opt out, but was told that that would ruin the plan because we needed to have 4 people. Yes, if I could, I wouldn't object to a destination change, because I agree, the new destination was honestly better, but I made it clear that I couldn't afford it and I didn't have the time off. I also spoke to each of my 2 friends that I was originally planning the trip with in private, but they said that plans weren't going to change anymore. This went on for weeks until they made it clear that I was a minority vote. So I told them I planned to cancel the trip because I couldn't afford it and I wasn't willing to go and spend above my means. This was 2 weeks before the proposed leaving date, so getting decent accommodation within 2 weeks proved very difficult. We only found one place that wasn't up to their standards, so the trip was officially cancelled because there was no need to accept a place like that when the trip was already ruined, because all the plans were made for a group of 4. So I think I ruined the trip and my friends are mad at me. Okay, so this is a really interesting one. I really hate situations like this. They really annoy me because I think, you know, in a friendship group, right, you're multiple people, you're a group, and especially when you're sort of young and you're going on group friend trips, you're all in different life stages. You might all be the same or similar age, but you're in different life stages, you're doing different things. Some people sort of start off their career and do things like that straight away. Some people might be in school longer, or might take longer to hit the ground running, or have different priorities. Someone might still be living with their parents, so have loads of disposable income, while someone's got expensive rent, or they've got a loan for a mortgage for a house. And, you know, all these different variables that every single person has. And those things are especially different when you're young, right? And all your friends are at different stages in life. And I honestly think, like, if friends honestly are your friends and want you to be on the trips and also want the best for you, they would never push you to, explore or basically go on a trip that is significantly out of your means financially, nor would they want to put you under the stress of doing that just because you feel bad for cancelling the trip, right? Like, you wouldn't want your friend to go into a bunch of debt that's going to be stressful and a burden for them to pay off just because you want the trip. Like, I think obviously some of us will have, dream holiday destinations that might be more expensive. And you can go do that with one or two people that have the same budget as you or whoever it might be. When you're going on a friend group trip, you're going for the people, you're going to have a laugh with your friends. And ultimately, the most important thing in that has to be having all your friends there, wherever it is that you can all afford and that you can all travel to and you can all take the time off for. And I think maybe the friends have kind of lost sight of that a little bit. So I don't think it's the writer's fault at all. It maybe would have been ideal if you could have come to a conclusion on the trip earlier so that it didn't kind of get drawn out and have to get cancelled. But yeah, absolutely. It's good that the writer stood their ground and didn't want to go above their means, to be honest. So no, I don't think the writer is in the wrong at all here. But let me know what you think. Do you agree? And have you ever been in a situation like this where you've got friends with different budgets and you're trying to plan an activity or a trip? It can get messy, so yeah, let me know. And our next story. My boyfriend, 28 male, has been collecting my 28 female rent for a free house. Now this is an interesting one. I've been living with my boyfriend for a year now. I'm a graduate student, so I have very minimal income, and I'm very upset about this, but my boyfriend says he was trying to do something nice. My boyfriend and I moved in together to a house that he found. He arranged all the landlord and rental stuff and told me to send $1,000 a month to the landlord's bank account. This is a very normal rent for our area, but I could have probably spent less if I'd lived alone in an apartment. I've been doing so for the last year, only to find out yesterday from his mum that his parents actually own the house and they aren't charging us any rent. Upon hearing this, I asked my boyfriend about the $13,000 that he'd had me sent to some account over the last year and a bit. And he told me that he was doing it for me as a gift or savings to give back later so that I could see how much I'd saved for free. I'm livid. I'm not at all irresponsible with my money. I have no debt and even have managed to put aside some savings. Over the last year, there have been things that I've had to miss out on because they weren't financially feasible for me without this rent money that I've been paying. There have been some times where I couldn't get my tyres replaced or couldn't get a new blazer to replace my threadbare one. So my boyfriend got to swoop in, save the day, and pay for things or lend me money. It always made me feel so bad that he could live just fine on his salary, but I couldn't live well on mine. And now I know it's because he was spending $1,000 less than I was every month. I don't know what to do. I feel upset and uncomfortable about the whole situation, but my boyfriend won't listen to me. He keeps saying that this was supposed to be a surprise gift and that I'm taking it the wrong way. I don't know what to think. Am I overreacting? Now, this is an interesting one. I think, first of all, the writer's right to be overreacted, right? In a relationship, two adults, trust each other, you attack life together. And clearly, she's not got a load of money. She's not got a poor, history with credit and with how she, treats money. She's clearly quite disciplined with saving and things like that. So I do think that if you were in the writer's situation, you maybe feel like your trust has been abused a little bit. You were led to believe that things were one way and then they weren't, right? So that's a horrible feeling to find that out. But then at the same time, her boyfriend's clearly tried to do a nice thing. Whether he's gone about it the wrong way or done the wrong thing or kind of miscalculated and made a mistake there, he's not gone about it with poor intentions. Do you know what I mean? He's gone about it to help her to save, to do a grand reveal and surprise when she's got all this money in the end. So I think it's quite a difficult situation. I'm not really sure what I would do in this situation. I'd definitely be angry, but I don't know where I'd go from there. I'd definitely be happy to have all that money back though. Let me know what you think in the comments. What would you do? Would you break up? Would you leave the house? What would you spend the money on? It's difficult. It's hard to know what the next steps would be, especially without a little more context. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. We can argue about it in there. So, our next story. My workplace wants to remove a bell at my desk that aids with my disability. I'm a night auditor at a hotel, and my job is largely sitting in the back, watching cameras, printing out papers, and helping guests that arrive in the middle of the night. I work a night shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m, and I'm generally completely alone in the building except for the security guard. This job has been an absolute slam dunk for me. I struggle in most workplaces due to my disabilities that make waking up on time difficult, and showing up to work at all can be a challenge at times. But because I'm coming in the dead of night, I don't have to worry about oversleeping, and since my job is printing papers and general customer service, I don't have to worry about not being able to handle it. My previous manager had encouraged me to bring my Nintendo Switch into work, because it can get extremely boring. She made it clear that as long as I'm not bothering any guests, I'm here on time and I get all my work done, what I do during the night hours doesn't really matter. She also mentioned that there's a bell in the dining area that the cooks use, and I can leave it up front so that guests can easily alert me when they need something and I'm out the back. That manager left the company about a month ago. Our new front desk manager is an external hire who sent her first message to the team about a week ago. About 70% of the message was about her telling off anyone who uses the bell. She'd seen my sign that says please ring the bell for service, and wrote that anyone who used the bell would be written up for doing so. I have pretty bad ADHD, and that's a pretty major part of my typical struggles at work. I'm not always looking at the cameras, and I can't tell 100% of the time when a guest has arrived at the front desk. While I'd like to get medication to treat this, the waiting list is long. Maybe it's silly, but that bell is a huge saving grace for my work performance. It's quiet, distinctive, and immediately lets me know I need to go up and help a guest. I've mentioned that it assists me with my disability to my manager. None of these things are ideal, and to me it seems like a much easier solution would just be to keep the bell and allow customers to have a way of notifying me when they're waiting. However, my manager has made it very clear again that this won't be happening, and I really don't want to get written up. While I could just sit at the front desk, that would make me unable to watch the cameras at all, and I also don't really feel safe doing so. The desk is in front of a massive window in a shady part of town, and I'm certain that I would get people coming in specifically to harass me. It has happened to me before. I just want to keep the bell, and I don't understand why it's such a big deal if it helps me do my work easier. But I don't know how to describe this to my manager without sounding stupid. Okay, and this is a tricky one, because I think, first of all, this bell was literally told to you by your old manager, like it was advised to you by them. And, so it's not like something that you've come up with and done of your own accord to almost get around work rules. That was advised to you by your boss. Now, I often think you have situations in workplaces where you get new managers coming in externally, and in the first sort of weeks or months, they want to prove that they're the boss, right? And they want to kind of go a bit harder than they maybe always would and like put in place new rules and things so everyone understands that they mean business, that they are, the boss. They're the new person around here and they're going to like whip things into shape. However, I think it's going too far. Like the writer's given multiple reasons, safety for one, disability, and also like you're working night shift in a hotel, especially on a midweek night. How many people are really going to be coming in throughout the night? It's a bit ridiculous, I think. However, in terms of what I'd actually do in the situation, it's quite difficult. I suppose you could go back and speak to the manager again and maybe explain the point about watching the cameras and try and sort of position what you want a little bit more from the company's position is always a good way to go about these kind of workplace issues, I think. But yeah, I definitely think you should stand your ground. But then, as you say, it is a chill job. It is a job that suits you. So maybe don't stand your ground to the point of losing the job, if that makes sense. It's a difficult one to balance. And also, you never know how long this new manager is going to stay. So maybe it'll be a short-term problem. I hope it is, because it sounds like a difficult situation. And it sounds like the manager's probably blowing it out of proportion a little bit. So our next story. I, 31 female, am struggling to rebuild my self-worth after my ex-fiancé, 33 male, left me for a woman who's younger, smarter, and a prettier version of myself. She's 24. Okay, let's see. I know it's pretty hard to believe how pathetic I sound right now, but before this happened, I was a really content and confident human being. Almost all of my current friends are mutual friends with my ex, so I don't want to roll them into this drama or compel anyone to choose sides or make them uncomfortable. So I'm coming to the internet for solace and guidance and trying to get some mature advice here. I was with my ex-fiancé for 7 years. We met in college, but were only casual friends until we happened to get a job at the same company. We caught up over coffee and started dating quickly. Within 6 months, we'd met each other's families, moved in together, etc. I know that seems fast, but we'd known each other for a while, had similar social circles, and everything just felt right. He's the only romantic partner that I've ever truly loved, and I was completely head over heels for him. Even after all this, I still feel this way about him. We got engaged 2 years ago, after 5 years of being together, but we're not in a rush to get married. I was ecstatic that he had proposed, but felt so deeply committed to our relationship already that I wasn't really concerned about the wedding, and he said that he'd felt the same. I even told him that I don't need an engagement ring because I'm not big on jewellery and don't want him to spend so much money on something. About a year ago, we began to contemplate trying for a baby. We'd lived happily for 6 years, done travelling and partying and all those things that we wanted to do, and we were excited to start a family. I was so happy and excited. Over the next 6 months, he became much busier than normal, but I didn't think anything was wrong. I did my best to alleviate stress he had because I thought he was experiencing extra pressure at work. I took on all the household errands and helped him organise and pack and do other life admin, understanding when he had to work late or leave for work trips. We didn't spend as much time together during that period, and I missed him a lot, but I thought we were still happy. When the 6-month work project was over, our schedules went back to normal, and I felt relieved until I noticed him becoming more distant, despite the fact that we had more time together. He was on his phone more when we were together and was more protective of his phone. I'm not generally a jealous person, and I completely trusted him, so I tried not to think much of it. Then one day I brought up the topic of trying for a baby, as we discussed before his work project had kicked in. I could immediately tell that something was wrong. He was quiet for a while and then unleashed a flood. He said that he was unhappy with our relationship and had been for some time. He said that he cared about me deeply, but that the spark had died, and that he'd tried to convince himself to live without the spark, but decided that he ultimately couldn't. He said that I'd done nothing wrong, and in fact that I was the perfect partner, but that didn't change that he couldn't shake this nagging feeling that I wasn't the one. He said that he didn't want to hurt me, but he couldn't condemn himself to a lifetime of settling for someone. He said he was sorry, but he couldn't live a lie anymore. I don't think I said a single word as he was telling me all this, because I just felt so shocked. I stood there listening and crying. When he finished, all I said was, "I'm sorry, I didn't know. Do you still love me?" He paused for a while and then said that he loved me, but wasn't in love with me anymore. We spent the whole night discussing our feelings in our relationship until we were both so exhausted that we couldn't cry anymore, and the sun was coming up. He said he was sorry again, and then he said that it was probably best if he stayed at a friend's place. He packed up some stuff and he left. That was about 5 months ago, and we never really talked in person again. His brother and a friend of his came over that weekend to pick up the rest of his stuff, and I just went out whilst they were packing because I couldn't stand to be there and watch. Luckily, our landlord had another tenant lined up, so allowed us to break the lease, and I moved out too shortly after. The whole process seems like a blur now. I feel so shocked and numb and tired. I couldn't really process what was happening as I went through the motions of moving out and explaining the situation to family and friends. But when I finally moved into my own place and sat alone with the boxes, I completely broke down. Could not get out of bed, I barely ate. I looked through all our old pictures and tried to figure out where it all went wrong. Then for 4 months I tried to move on, deleted all my social media so I wouldn't see him, dove into my work and my hobbies and exercise, spent time with my friends and family, and pretended that everything was okay. I also started going to a therapist again. I thought I could finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. Then a month ago, I ran into a mutual friend from college. She said that she'd been really sad to see that we weren't together anymore, and was surprised to see that he'd moved on so fast. I told her I wasn't keeping up with him anymore, but that I was doing okay. When I got home, even though I knew it was a terrible idea, I re-downloaded social media and went to his profile. His latest picture was him at his cousin's wedding with his arm around a gorgeous girl. All the old pictures of him and I were deleted from his profile. Again, I knew it was a terrible idea at the time, but I went to the girl's profile and looked at her. She's literally a younger, smarter, prettier and better version of myself. We both studied at the same university, but she completed a more prestigious program. We both look really similar, but she's far prettier and looks like a model. We're both thin, but she has an amazing figure and looks far more stylish than me and has loads of followers. In fact, we both work at the same company. I'm pretty sure my ex met her through work, but she landed a job in a prestigious division right out of college and probably makes more money of me. She's an improved version of me, 7 years younger, and the love of my life is dating her. For the past month, I've been spiraling. I can't stop stalking my ex-fiancé and this girl. I look at their Instagrams every day and torture myself with gorgeous pictures. She's posted a dozen pictures with my ex over the past few months, and he looks happy, healthy and fit. They've gone on trips together, including to his hometown, and he's posted a picture of them with a mushy caption. I can recognise that my behaviour is obsessive, and I've deleted Instagram and told myself I'm not going to do this anymore. Except I wake up the next day and re-download the app and do it again. My therapist has been trying to help, I just cannot move past this. I'm stuck in a mental loop of self-loathing and extreme sadness and anger. I feel low, worthless, discarded, and suddenly so old. This is really horrible. This is an absolutely awful situation. And I honestly think it's outrageously disrespectful of her fiancé not to kind of communicate with her through this. Like, obviously it's horrible, right? She's been left after she had no idea there was something wrong with the situation. They'd been together and then they were friends before that since college, and they're now in their early 30s. And then for him to leave her for a much younger woman is absolutely shocking. But also for him to sort of leave, make it out to be a sort of a him thing, right? Like, it's not you, it's me, I just this and I just that. But then actually to be leaving her for a woman that he's met at work. And also I think there's a certain sensitivity, right? If you break up in a relationship and you still have mutual respect, maybe you don't need to go posting everything on a public Instagram straight away. Or maybe you just remove the other person. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like he wanted to break up with her, and obviously that's sad, and the writer's going through an awful thing, and, you know, you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy. It's horrible. But he could still spare her some thought, right? Spare some thought for the woman that he ultimately loved and was with for years and years and years and was his fiancée. And just have a little bit of respect for what he's putting her through, and maybe, you know, make that a bit easier. I definitely think he could have done things better in that situation. But also for her, for the writer, I think she's doing all of the things, right? She's going to therapy, she's trying not to look at the pictures even if she can't quite manage it all the time. She's doing hobbies, seeing friends, family, doing work. She's doing all the things. It just will take time. Like, that's traumatic and that's shocking, and it just will take time. So yeah, anyone in the comments who can relate or has gone through or is going through something similar, I hope I hope that's a little bit reassuring, and let me know in the comments what you think about this. It's a very, very sad situation, and I hope the writer's doing better since writing this. Okay. On to our penultimate story. My 28 female, husband 36 male, passed away, and now his best friend, 33 female, is trying to control his services. My husband passed away unexpectedly a month ago from a stroke. It's the worst pain I've ever felt in my life, and I've no idea how I'm ever going to move on. We'd been married for 5 years and together for 7, and the past 2 years we'd been trying for a baby. We were just getting to the point of considering IVF when he died. My husband had a close high school friend named Marjorie. She also ended up going to the same university as he did, and they spent a lot of time together in their younger years. My husband said he liked her company, but never felt anything beyond friendship with her, which I totally believe. My husband dated other women during his younger years when he was friends with Marjorie, but told me that several times she had hinted that she wanted him to ask her out, and she joked about him wanting her to be plan B in case he didn't get married by 30. By the time I started dating my husband, he'd moved a couple of hours away from his hometown and his friend Marjorie. Despite this, she often found excuses to come to our town and hang out, which usually involved her encouraging us to go drinking and then her passing out on the couch at his apartment. I didn't mind her for this, for the most part, although she often said annoying things like, "You know you've ruined our marriage pact," and pointing out all the things she knew about him that I didn't. Over the course of our relationship, and especially after we got married, my husband put some distance between his relationship with her and confided in me that he felt like he'd outgrown her slightly. They didn't have very much in common anymore. He stopped responding to her invitations to go out drinking, although he would occasionally call her to catch up. But now he's gone. I had him cremated like he wanted, and we haven't done a memorial service yet. It was too hard for me to even imagine that for the first couple of weeks. I also wanted to give some time for out-of-state people to make travel plans. The memorial will go ahead this weekend. However, 2 weeks ago, I received an email from Marjorie, sent to around 60 people, including all of my husband's family, saying that she was holding a memorial service for him in their hometown, the day before his memorial here. I was completely blown away, seeing as she had never mentioned anything to me or even attempted to call me. Along with the details, the email said that she was planning it in light of the fact that no other service had yet been held in his memory, and that he deserved to be laid to rest with honour. For the record, she was fully invited to the memorial which I've been planning and knew it was happening. I called her and told her that while I appreciated her willingness to help with the goodbye, I was already planning a service for him as she knew, and that would involve all of his family and friends. She immediately went defensive and said that she'd only started to plan it when she realised I wasn't going to plan a service in a timely manner. I told her that timing wasn't her choice to make, but if she wanted to do a memorial of some kind, please add on the invitation that the official memorial was going to be held this weekend. I sent a message to all of Jonah's, my husband's, invited friends and family to make sure that they knew when and where the real service of both of our families was going to be. This week I received a message on Facebook from my husband's cousin saying that the friend, Marjorie, had created an event for his official memorial service, which was her service, and invited everyone that she possibly could. I've been getting blown up for emails asking which is the service and where. I'm honestly furious and I don't have enough emotional energy to deal with this. I put up a post on my wall reiterating the date of his service and asking people to share it. Thankfully, I think older members of the family don't use Facebook or email very often, so haven't been confused. But I think a lot of people now think that Marjorie's service is the real one. I called her again, but she was no help. She's now spreading information to further mutual friends saying that my husband was planning on leaving me. Lots of absolute lies. I'm at a loss what to do. I don't care what she says about me, but she's tarnishing my husband's memory. I need to figure out how to tell this woman to leave me alone without encouraging her to spread more lies. I also just want to forget the whole thing, crawl in bed, and never get up again. This is an awful situation. You know, like the writer's clearly at one of their lowest points, and then they're having to go through all of this too. I mean, from an objective standpoint, what it boils down to is just jealousy and grief on both sides, right? But the friend has clearly been in love with the husband, the writer's husband, for decades, and is obviously grief-stricken that the fact that he's passed away, and has probably harboured a lot of jealousy for his wife, for the writer, throughout the whole time that they've been together. I'm not saying any of this to excuse what she's doing. What she's doing is manipulative and awful, but I think it seems sort of less outlandish and ridiculous when you contextualize it behind that as well. So yeah, it's a terrible situation. I really think it's something that the friend Marjorie will come to regret when she realizes that there are two services happening at similar times, far away, and the people are going to be split across both. But I think all the writer can do is send out the email, tell people where the official service is, and then be kind to herself and look after herself and ignore the friend. She doesn't need that in her life, that stress and that sort of confrontation at any time, but no least at this time in her life. So I really hope things work out with the official memorial that the writer has organised. And yeah, that's an absolutely horrible situation. Let me know in the comments, what would you do? How would you deal with this? It's just so toxic, but it's also just so sad because you can empathise with the feelings behind both of them. Okay, on to our final story then for today's video. I think it's a pretty interesting one. And I'll be really interested to see the argument in the comments and what people think on either side. So, my female 28 boyfriend, male 33, said that he's disgusted by my body hair and I have to laser remove it and pay for it or else he'll leave me. He says that I'm not taking his happiness into consideration, and that if I can't sacrifice this for him, what else won't I be able to sacrifice down the road? Okay, let's see. I've been dating my boyfriend for 14 months. A few days ago, he confessed that he's disgusted by my body hair and wants me to get laser done. At first I said no because I accept my body hair just as it is and that he's never expressed any complaints about it before. I'm not even a hairy person. And I do groom. He elaborated on how it disgusts him to look and said that he gags at the thought of it. At first I thought he was looking for a dumb excuse to break up, but I realised he was being dead serious about it. So I agreed to compromise and bleach some of my forearm hair and things like that. He said even if I bleached it, the hair would still be there and make him feel disgusted. He told me I had to get all hair permanently laser removed. I don't want to have it laser removed because it's my choice and I shouldn't feel pressured into doing it. I compromised and agreed to at least think about it. And I said if he wanted me to laser remove all my hair, it was only fair that he'd pay for it. He refused, saying it doesn't cost that much, and since it would be a permanent improvement on my body, I'd be the one benefiting from it, so I'd be the one to pay for it. I took these comments offensively because I don't think this is an upgrade or an improvement. I asked if he was looking to start a fight or break up because the situation just seemed too bizarre. He said if I wasn't willing to sacrifice something this silly to make him happy, what else wouldn't I be willing to sacrifice further down the line in our relationship? He says he genuinely loves me and wants to build a future together, but that I'm not taking his happiness into consideration and that this is a major deal breaker for him. We don't live together, and for the past few days he's been sending me messages and quotes from laser hair removal salons and telling me to hurry up and make a decision already. That I'm the love of his life, but I have to learn to budge to make this relationship work. To be honest, this whole thing's really put me off him, and I'm reconsidering if he is the person I want to be with. I feel pressured to change something about me that he and I have never had an issue with, and I feel that he's given me pressure and an ultimatum to choose. I either laser my body and pay for it, or he leaves me. Now this is a pretty crazy situation. Like, I can understand a partner maybe raising a certain preference about how you look or what you wear, or saying, you know, you look nice when you do this, or I prefer this, or I prefer that, right? Like, but I think this has gone to an absolute extreme. First of all, the ultimatum is just ridiculous. But second of all, this is a permanent change to her body. And it's not like a fashion statement. Oh, I like when you dye your hair blonde or when you dye your hair brunette, I like one more than the other. No, this is like, that's your natural body and I want to permanently change it, right? And I think, and also it's not something she's desired at all. And I think it's pretty unreasonable. I definitely don't think that she should be pressured into it at all, because this is her own choice, and it's her own body, and she has to have the right for that. And if it's something that she wanted anyway, and he said, oh yeah, great idea, like, I would like that, then fine, right? But it's not her that's proposed it, it's him that's proposed it. And even more concerningly, he's putting her under all this pressure and all this ultimatum. So I honestly think, like, it's a bad look on him, and it's pretty poor. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of this? What do you think she should do? And do you think her boyfriend's being unreasonable? I certainly do, but let's argue about that in the comments. Okay, that was our final story for today. I hope you've enjoyed the gameplay and the stories as much as I have. I think we've had a pretty crazy mix of different story topics today, and I also think, not to toot my own horn, that the garden and the farm are coming along nicely. I'm really starting to love this game. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or evening, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.